Hi everyone, welcome to episode 113 of the XS Noize Podcast. I'm Mark Millar, and this is our final podcast of 2022. The XS Noize Podcast was in Spotify's top 10% most shared podcast worldwide this year, so a huge thank you to everyone who has listened and shared. I really appreciate it. In this episode, I speak to alternative indie artist from Northern Ireland, Thom Southern. Thom's debut album, PLAZA, it's my favourite album to come out of Northern Ireland this year, so it was a real pleasure to talk to Thom about it. If you missed the previous episode, I spoke to Lac Galbraith from Aussie rockers Ocean Alley. We talked about their latest album, Low Altitude Living.
Our lead guitarist, Angus, he's fantastic at what he does. He can be a man of few words sometimes, but when he says things, they really stick. And he came up with that concept, and he goes, we were back and forthing about what are we going to call it, and we couldn't quite settle on something. Out of the blue, he just goes, Low Altitude Living. And we go, what the fuck's that? He goes, Low Altitude Living. Think about it. And so we sat down, and we had a thought, and we go, okay, yeah, we can see how this is going. And we started, individually thinking about and going over, like, how does that feel? What does that mean? And then we kind of understood that it's not just, it's kind of like a statement and as to what we were doing in the past 2 years through that all that COVID stuff, but also just as us in general as people. We live low altitude. We live by the ocean, but also it's kind of like it has that sense of relaxation. Like we don't take each other too seriously. It's more like a comment on our way of life.
So check it out, and if you like the podcast, please subscribe for free and share it with your friends. If you want up-to-date music news, album reviews and interviews, then check out our main website at xsnoize.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Search for the tag at XS Noize Music. Here's XS Noize writer Daniel Lynch with a taste of what's been on the website this week.
With Christmas coming up, gig tickets might just be the perfect present for the music fan in your life. There's tour news on the website from Rancid, who will play a run of UK and European dates next summer. Ben Hard will headline Alexandra Palace Park in July, Skinny Living play Belfast in May, and Orbital will tour their Optical Delusion shows in March and April. All the dates and ticket details are in our gigs section. In the reviews section, Ian Byrne gives 8 out of 10 to the Flaming Lips 20th anniversary reissue of Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots. The CD issue has 100 tracks across 6 discs. Michael Barron has been listening to the double album that isn't a double album from NoFX. It's the follow-up to Single Album from 2021 and is 10 short tracks. Michael says the album could have been a punk rock masterpiece, but one track lets everything down. 7 out of 10. Read the full reviews at xsnoize.com.
Thom Southern started his musical career busking in Belfast city centre at age 16. He later teamed up with his sister Lucy to form the band Southern and MMODE, and this year he released his debut solo album PLAZA, which was nominated for Best Album at the Northern Ireland Music Prize. In this interview, Thom talks about all of the above and lots more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the XS Noize Podcast with Thom Southern. Hi Thom, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Hiya.
It was great to have a quick chat with you last week after your set supporting Michael Head at the Black Box. So how did the show go for you? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was really cool. I haven't played such a sort of like stripped back set like that in a long time. So it was really nice to just play the songs, like the bare bones of the songs, just me and an acoustic guitar. And the audience was really intimate as well. Like, it was kind of the perfect audience, especially for Belfast. Like, nobody was really talking or anything. So it was really nice to kind of do those songs in that setting. Especially a lot of the new material I was doing. It kind of needs that quiet room, listening experience. So yeah, it was great. And I love Michael Head's music as well. So it was an honor to support him,
Yeah, as I said to you on the night, I've always been a big fan, going back from the Peel Fountains, Shack, right through to the Red Elastic Band, so it was great to see him in Belfast,
Yeah.
But about you, going back to the start, Can you remember the first band or artist that made you pay attention to music?
It was probably Beck. Like, my parents used to play Beck, religiously in our house. And so pretty much like every album, we sort of grew up as, as toddlers right through Beck's career. Like, so it was just, I just always remember Beck being on. So whenever he dropped a new album, I was, 3 and then 5 and then 10. And then so going into the 2000s when he was releasing some of his best music, I kind of grew up with Beck, right up until now. So I think he kind of he was such a guide for me as a musician and a songwriter. He's probably, I wouldn't listen to him as much anymore, but all that early stuff was such a big influence on me just as a person as well. Every album has like a time in my life, a nostalgic sort of thing to what he's done. So probably Beck.
I wouldn't listen to all his albums, but I think one of his previous albums, the one that won the Grammy, Morning Phase, was it?
Morning Phase, yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Incredible. Yeah, it was cool as well when he put that out. That was a bit later and he'd been quiet for a long time. The stuff before that had been more upbeat, I reckon. He hadn't done anything like that since Sea Change, I think. And so it was really nice to kind of hear Beck doing that more atmospheric, kind of meaningful, like heart-wrenching sort of music that he's amazing at, as well as the kind of funky, like fun Prince, meets Beastie Boys stuff. So, I remember I was living in Liverpool at the time when Morning Phase dropped, and it was like me and my sister Lucy are such big fans of Beck. It was like, he's back, wow, and it's such a great album.
So, what age were you when you first picked up the guitar and started playing it?
I started on piano, like a lot of kids do, like, when their parents sort of want you to do something musical, like piano is quite a good one to start on. But I thought it was so boring doing the grades. Like, I just, it was every week waiting for the teacher to come. Like, I just hated it, and I loved playing piano. And in the grade books, like they had like different genres. So a lot of it was classical, obviously, but it was the jazz pieces that I loved learning. And that was the only side to playing the piano that I really liked doing, was the kind of funky jazz stuff. And then I remember I'd always loved guitar music. And then, I grew up on like mainly like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and Deep Purple, and I loved AC/DC at one point. This is like really getting into like Radiohead and like more alternative stuff. But I remember, I love the White Stripes, and my mate Jack, at the time I was like 10 or something. I'm like ambidextrous. So at the time when I picked up his guitar in his house, I was about 10, and I had to like flip it upside down because I really wanted to play, like left-handed. And I loved Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, and he taught me how to play it, but I had to play it on the high E string because I was upside down. It's just and that was it for me. Like, as soon as I learned that little riff, it was Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, and I was just like, I ran home to my mom, and I was like, I have to have a guitar. Like, I was just completely obsessed with it, and I begged them like all throughout the year. This was earlier in the year, so it had to wait for Christmas like for ages, and just kept on plugging away, begging to get a guitar, and I got one. And it was this rubbish, like cheap guitar called It was like the brand was called Venom. And it came in a cardboard box, and on the outside was this big cobra, wrapping around as proper. And it was like the heaviest guitar I've ever picked up. Like, it was heavier than a Les Paul. I don't know what a 10-year-old was doing with that, but so yeah, it nearly made me give up the guitar. That guitar, actually, because it was just so bad. But I got good at it on that rubbish guitar, and then when I finally got a better one, I think it was like a Tokai SG because I wanted to be like Angus Young in AC/DC. And that was it. You know, like once I got a better guitar, it was like just completely blew my mind. And then I got into, I actually got into Irish traditional music on the acoustic. And then that's how I sort of transitioned more into the acoustic guitar from electric. And that's sort of what started my old project Southern. And I got really into blues and everything through sort of Irish trad rhythms and like alternative tunings and stuff like that. So, but yeah.
Has music always been the career path you wanted to follow, or did you have other ambitions?
I never, like, you know, from like the age of 10, it wasn't until I was about like 17 or something that I thought like this could be a career or something that I could actually, you know, like it was an option outside of get your GCSEs, A levels, go to uni, you know, do what everybody else does. It wasn't until I was about 17 I was like, maybe I could cut a corner here and actually do this. But no, growing up, there's a lot of art in our family. So like I was always huge into like designing things, even like as a small kid. I used to love using paint and like designing football boots, and we were always painting in our house, and my sister's an amazing artist as well. So I always wanted to kind of maybe follow some sort of like computer graphic route or some sort of graphic design. So I always just thought I was going to do that. And then I just absolutely love playing guitar, you know, and writing songs and stuff. But it wasn't until I started busking in Belfast, and then I won this competition when I was like 17. And it gave me a slot in the Belfast Nashville Festival. And then they sort of put me on different radio shows on Radio Ulster and to promote that I won the thing. And I was like, it kind of gave me a taste of like, you know, I don't know, recognition or something for my songs. And that's when I sort of got a little bit of a bug for maybe I don't need to, you know, do the normal office job route. Yeah. So, yeah.
I didn't know that the Belfast busking competition was a thing. I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, it was, I think it was like the only one they did, if I'm right. But I didn't even know it existed because nobody really, like, from what I remember, like, as a teenager, I don't really remember many buskers, whereas you see loads now. Like, Dublin's obviously always been a big busking city, but Belfast wasn't. Like, I don't remember a lot of buskers the way there are now. I just remember that, you know, there wasn't even that guy playing like the violin trumpet. I don't know where he's gone, but you know, just like people busking on the streets and stuff. Like, I just don't remember that. And
there was always somebody in Pottinger's entry.
Yeah, or was it that guy sat on the stool and he used to sing like Leonard Cohen songs and stuff? Because I just remember me and him were like the only buskers in Belfast. And
where was your spot?
Fountain Street, just outside Lindenhall Library. That was my place. You know what I mean? And then just outside Boots was this old guy's place. And we kind of became friendly. But he was I think he might have had schizophrenia because like one day he'd be my best mate and then the next day he'd be like, you know, coming shouting at me like for stealing his like, you know, customers or people passing with money or whatever. But I did that for about 3 years and then I didn't even know there was a busking competition on. And then this woman from the council came over and was like, you know, you should really think about signing up for this. It's the application deadline's tomorrow. So I just handed it in and then I ended up winning it. But there was a lot of like bands in it. I remember I think they were called the Lowly Knights, and like there were some like really cool people like applied to do it. It was incredible. It was all over Belfast. There were just buskers everywhere for 3 days straight. But it was a really cool time, you know. It was a nice like experience to be a part of it. But they should do more stuff like that, to be honest, you know.
What was your set? I mean, was it a mixture of your own songs or
busking?
Covers, yeah.
Mainly, I don't like playing covers because I don't know, I just find it grueling singing someone else's song. But the only ones that I did like playing was Radiohead and Coldplay because it just suited my voice and like the range of my voice and stuff. So I just used to just like play them on a loop, like high, like Radiohead's High and Dry. I could hit the high falsetto note and it just it always got like a couple of pound coins, when I hit that note. I noticed, like, so I used to just like loop around that. And then some of like Coldplay's early stuff, like, was really, really nice to play, and maybe a bit of Damien Rice as well. But mainly I just played, like, I just used it as a platform to try out my own material and see which was like turning people's heads. And I played a lot of blues, kind of dadgad, drop D, alternative tuning stuff. And it definitely gave me like a basis for what would end up, being my live show when I plugged in and toured and stuff. Like, that really came from my busking time.
Can you remember the first song that you wrote that you thought, right, this is a really good song?
There was a track I wrote. Anybody who used to follow us when we did change our, like, it was when me and Lucy changed the project to Southern. Well, no, the first song I wrote, where, like, I remember I played it to my friend. I was listening to a lot of Radiohead, and I was obsessed with I Might Be Wrong by Radiohead. And it has that repetitive loopy, like drop D, like that. And I was just obsessed with that riff, and I kind of came up with my own version of that, and it ended up becoming like one of our first band, Southern's most popular tunes, called World Don't Shine. And it pretty much got our like record deal and everything. Like, just people loved that tune. That was probably, I remember playing that to my mate when I was about 16. And that was pretty much the first kind of proper song that I'd ever written. And I remember he was like, "You wrote that?" He was like, "That's amazing." And I was like, "No way." And I used to I really like sort of did that. It went through, because I wrote it when I was 16. By the time we actually put it out like properly with a label, was about, I was about 21. So it went through a lot of like transitions, production wise, and demos. And I remember the first version I did of it was in this studio. And I met these guys in Belfast when I was about 17. I made this disc for that when I won the busking competition, so I could like hand it out to people. But it had like Turkish bongos and all these like sort of very African-y like roots. And my singing style was a lot more Billy Corgan-y, kind of Bob Dylan vibe. And it was actually a really cool version. Like, I always like wished I put like that one, But yeah, probably World Don't Shine. Yeah.
And you mentioned about working with your sister Lucy in Southern, and later the psych rock project MMODE. The Guardian described you both as the most promising singer-songwriters in Ireland today, and you supported Jake Bugg, Bastille, Catfish and the Bottlemen. My favourite's the brand Jonestown Massacre, The Coral and the Cooks. So what made you call time on those projects to go solo?
Well, Southern ended because it was like a sort of slow end, but it was, my health wasn't good. I had like a stomach issue that I'd been ignoring for a few years, like when we were on tour and everything. And then when I was about 23 or 24, it was like, yeah, I just had to take some time off. And then we were kind of developing a lot of these new sounds and everything. And we got really into shoegaze music and like all this psychedelic stuff. And I got really into Spacemen 3. And so what I was doing and what I'd recorded for the Southern album, just in my head, wasn't where I was at anymore. And I really wanted to experiment more. So the time off for my health, it kind of put a bit of a spanner in the sort of momentum of that project. And the record label, Marathon, kindly let us do, as part of the same deal, we changed the name. And I was like, look, we've got this album. We've made these videos ourselves, and we've done all the photography, and we sent it all to them, and they were blown away. They thought it was amazing. So they were like, yeah, we'd love to put this out anyway. So when we did that for a year, but it was never really supposed to be like some serious thing that we wanted to, keep going for ages. It was more just like an avenue for us to just experiment and get all these ideas down, and make an album like that. It was like quite a conceptual thing, and every song sort of takes you on a journey, and visually as well. Like, Lucy and I, we wanted to do all the photography and videos ourselves. And also it was almost like we were playing a part, like it was like acting almost. We were kind of channeling some sort of Andy Warhol Velvet Underground thing as well, you know, and we were kind of playing characters as part of that project. So, but at the same time as doing that project, you know, we were both just writing so much, like crazy amounts of songs, separately and together. You know, Lucy singing MMODE. Lucy never sang lead in Southern. She was always the harmonizing with me and backing vocalist. So MMODE was like this, just opened up this whole world for her to be the lead singer. And then I was also doing some lead singing as well with MMODE. So just eventually we just had so many songs that just sounded quite different to one another. It just made sense for us to just put it into two different projects, but continue to work together as a partnership, you know. So I've always produced everything that Lucy's done, and she's co-written loads of stuff that I've done. So and we're still doing that today, you know. Lucy's got a new album coming out and everything. So eventually, but loads of new songs that I've co-written with her and co-produced with a guy in London. So it still feels like a duo to us, but to everyone else, it's like, seems like all these projects. But yeah.
In 2020, you released a studio recording of Billie Eilish's Everything I Wanted. It's a fantastic version. Why did you decide to put that out? And do you know if Billie has heard it?
No, I don't know if they've heard it, but I don't know why I did that. I just heard about her name just all the time, and I'd never been bothered to actually go and just really look at what was the big fuss. Like, I just sort of heard her name all over the place, and the story about her brother as well was really interesting to me, because it felt very similar to my relationship with my sister. And eventually I just said, right, I'm going to just sit down and see what's going on. Because, you know, they were just absolutely killing it at this point. And then I just went on and just listened to like the top 5 tunes. And the first one I listened to was that one. And I just couldn't believe how classic the songwriting was. And it's just completely written by them. It's the first sort of, for me, it's like at her level, you know, like she's competing with, like, if not more than all these bigger artists like Justin Bieber, who I think is great as well. I like Justin Bieber's voice, but all these, like, you know, very top high commercial selling artists. It's the first time I really heard like something that just could, like, she could sing that in front of John Lennon acoustic, or Paul McCartney and Phineas, and them harmonize that tune acoustically in front of you, and structure wise, melody wise, lyric wise as well. Just the way it goes from the pre-chorus into the chorus, just the whole idea about that song, and the instrumentation of it as well. I was just like completely blown away. I was like, they're actually genius songwriters. Like, they're not just, you know, making these big hit songs that people find catchy. Like, this is a really well written song. And so I just started singing it, and the more I kind of like, I just wanted to figure out how they'd structured it and just get inside the actual writing of it on an acoustic guitar. And the more I got into it, the more I was blown away just by how, like, this is the type of song that you'd wish, you know, doesn't come around very often. So I don't know. I just started demoing it for the crack in my studio. I never even planned to do it. And I remember I showed it to a couple of people, and they were like, you should put this out. So I just put it out. It wasn't anything serious, you know.
No, it's a great version. Really enjoy it.
Thank you.
But the main reason we're here today is to talk about your debut album. You released PLAZA at the beginning of the year. It was deservedly nominated for Best Album at this year's Northern Ireland Music Prize. So how did that feel to be nominated?
Yeah, it was really cool, actually. Because obviously, like, just throughout just everything I've done back to Southern and being a teenager, like, the NI Music Prize has always been there. And it was always, you know, for me as like a younger person right up to now, it was like being even just across awards in general, like, you know, an album. It was always my dream to make an album and like be nominated for just any prize, you know, for an album, not just a single or anything like that. I've always been fascinated by albums and like, you know, just how conceptual albums were, right back to Pink Floyd, and just like how album covers on a vinyl just the whole thing around like, let's make an album, not just like a load of singles the way people do now, and we'll bunch them together. And it's like, it's more of like a way to, you know, I don't know, like, it's like a strategy, if you know what I mean, rather than an actual conceptual piece of art. There obviously is loads of like amazing people making albums the way they used to be today, but it was always my dream to just like make an album on my own with nobody involved, and like just something super like intimate like that. And just the way I'd done the PLAZA album in, you know, my bedroom, and you know, I was quite ambitious with the sort of sounds as well. Like, it isn't just a bedroom pop EP album or anything. Like, you know, it's bigger sounding drums, like, you know, thought about guitar sounds and like, and music that I've kind of been developing for a few years. It was just nice to sort of box that into like a conceptual piece of art, and then people like the NI Music Prize like got it, you know, and just sort of, yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, well, that's why we're here, because I heard the album and I loved it, and I thought I'm going to have to get Thom on the podcast. So here we are. Even the album sleeve looks classic, you know. Yeah. It really stood out to me, you know. But let's get into some of the songs. There's so many brilliant songs on the album. My favorite song on the album is Atmosphere. When the guitar breaks in, I think in music speak, you can correct me if I'm wrong, in the middle eight, it's just absolutely tremendous. It just makes the house just stand up on me, you know. What can you tell me about that song? It's brilliant.
That's great. Yeah, and you're the first person to say. Actually, well, Lucy really, my sister really likes Atmosphere as well. It's probably my favorite tune on the album as well. I think guitar-wise, I really enjoyed that one the most, just because of the pedal I was using on, especially that part that you're talking about. It's actually sat here on my table. It's this like Earthquaker pedal that just like completely blew me away when I bought it. But yeah, I love that song. It's it was really fun to make that one. I don't know what else to say about it. I kind of a lot of those songs just came out of nowhere, you know, and Hypocritical Shoes as well. Like that album, it was all kind of like just ideas that I'd sort of had in like a folder on my hard drive, and then all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to make an album, and it just, everything sort of came together within 2 weeks, like all the lyrics and the structures and everything. It just was this like really condensed, inspiring moment when I was living in Liverpool last year. And Atmosphere was one of those tunes that just like, it just was, I recorded it and then it was just done like 3 hours later, and I didn't really change it much. But yeah, no, that's really cool. I love that tune.
And talking about atmosphere, I love the atmospheric sounds and sound textures in the song Slumber City. There's also the short instrumental Low Tides. Why did you decide to leave it as just a musical piece and not write any lyrics for that?
I think I wanted the album to feel like a journey. I wanted to give the song space, you know, like if you were listening to it from start to finish, the way that the album's arranged, like you've kind of got little moments of like peace, and then it goes big, and then you just need that little break. And, you know, even just like, it's the same with gigs as well. Like that, I arranged that album the way I would want to play the gig. You know, I wouldn't want to just blow your ears off for, you know, 40 minutes. I'd want to create a nice little bit of dynamic space so that when I come back in with the bigger sound, it just has that much more impact. But also just in general, I've always wanted to make a completely ambient instrumental album. I love like Harold Budd and Brian Eno and Robin Guthrie's solo stuff, and just all these amazing, completely instrumental ambient albums. So I just think that was just me channeling that as well, you know, trying to blend, you know, indie rock pop with ambient music. I just love ambient music. I listen to lo-fi chill as well, like beats and everything. So instrumental music is really important to me, just as much as writing lyrics.
Yeah, funny enough, when I heard Low Tide, I thought of Brian Eno.
That's
you know,
cool.
some of
Yeah.
the textures that he would do. My favorite, album is the one he did with you too, the Passengers album. I don't know whether you've heard that.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a
It's
big U2 fan
incredible.
anyway, but Eno
Yeah.
and U2 together just doing an album that isn't U2 or Brian
Yeah.
Eno was
Yeah.
amazing.
Brian Eno with anybody's amazing. Like he even had a part in the Slow Dive Slovakia album. I think he like played keyboards on one of the tunes. I think they wanted him to produce the album, but he said no and was like, but I'll play on one of the tunes and stuff. But Harold Budd as well is just incredible. There's a song called Ark of Doves. I think it's a Brian Eno collaboration, but it's just one of the most stunning pieces of music I've ever heard. But he recently passed away, I think last year, Harold Budd, but it's kind of really unusual classical style piano mixed with just these incredible synth pads and just, it's so beautiful.
I was looking on Spotify, and Tongue Tied is your most streamed song. Why do you think it's resonated?
I always think, like when you listen to, the most commercial, successful songs, people do love simplicity, and I'm a sucker for simplicity as well. I think just a simple hook is just what people just resonate with it, and it's funny. I always like joke, like you kind of don't grow up, like children love nursery rhymes, and some of the best songs in the world, like, that adults listen to, they're literally as simple as a nursery rhyme with a repetitive lyric, and I think, that's probably maybe why, but it's a cool song, that's nice, but streaming isn't everything.
Yeah. I know it doesn't make you much money anyway.
No, it doesn't, but it's fine. It's good crack.
But it's a great way for the people to be introduced to an artist or a band. The way I use it, like so Spotify is, I'll listen to it on there, and then if I like it, I'll actually buy a physical copy.
For sure, yeah. I'd be the exact same. Yeah. I use Bandcamp a lot. So like I have Spotify. I love like having all the playlists and everything, but anybody that I really do like Kurt Vile or whatever, like we would buy the high quality files on Bandcamp because it's just not the same. Like the main issue with Spotify that I have is just the quality. It's just, even for me as a releasing songwriter, you put, and I do take seriously what I do with production, and you put all this time and resources into the actual sound of the stuff, and then it comes out the back end of Spotify and it's completely crushed the quality, and it's a lot quieter, and it just doesn't have the same fullness that like we were listening to in the studio. I mean, it's kind of a stuck record conversation. Like, vinyl's obviously the best quality you can get, and that's probably why it's lasted so long and is still popular to buy, because it's just, you can't beat it. It's the closest thing to what we were listening to in the studio when we were making the records. So Bandcamp's really good for that. You can buy like the really high quality WAVs and stuff. So,
and you're a busy man. Not just did you put out Plaza this year, but you put out an EP, To Be Loved by a Fool EP. Great tracks. I love Strange Invitations, the opening track. The bass line is amazing. It reminds me of the bass from the Beatles' B-side Rain. Was that an influencer at all?
No, actually, people always joke that it sounds like the Beatles' Tax Man.
Yeah, that's another one, yeah.
Yeah, but no, it wasn't actually. It was, I don't know where that riff came from. I came up with that. It's like the idea for that song like years ago. It was actually going to be the MMODE second album. It was going to be sort of like the first single of that, but we just ended up scrapping it because we weren't happy with it. But the funny thing is the version that I ended up putting out as my solo stuff is the very first demo I ever made of Strange Invitations. But at the time I thought, when you're in that mind space, I was on a mission to do something just grander. But, it's funny when you take like a step back for a couple of years and you go, I just remember I was listening to just demos trying to get some inspiration, and then Strange Invitations demo came up and I was like, this is good to go. It was like, so I just put it out.
I love the Irish intro for the song My Honey using the ukulele and pipes. It's just so sublime. I love it.
Yeah, the ukulele and pipes. Yeah.
Yeah, I can never say it. I can never say it.
Yeah, ukulele and pipes. Yeah.
That's why I said Irish intro.
Yeah, because I got reviews on the track and everybody kept saying like they were bagpipes, or it's nice to get that like Scottish thing, and I'm just like, lads, it's Irish. It's the ukulele and pipes. The bagpipes aren't as nice as the ukulele and pipes.
Yeah, that's correct.
I just think the ukulele and pipes are just so beautiful. There's loads of Irish traditional players in our family, and like my cousin Michael Gaffney, he's on tour with like the sort of, it's like a version of the river dance kind of thing, but he plays guitar and the bodhrán, and he just gets together with his mates, and like one of them plays ukulele and pipes and all this stuff. But yeah, the guy I got to play the ukulele and pipes, Aaron, it's just unbelievable. But he actually builds the pipes himself. Like that's his like part-time job as well as what he does. He builds all these beautiful handcrafted Irish flutes and stuff, and then he can only make about 3 of them a year. They take so long to make, months to make them. Yeah. But it was funny, like I got him round to my mum's flat, and like we just made the video in there, but I dressed him up with sunglasses and everything and made him look like something from Reservoir Dogs. But it's so fun. It's so cool. But the idea for My Honey's, like, it's about, it's a nod to, oh God, it's gone out of my head. But yeah, it's just about, selling your soul to the devil to play good rock music. But it's sort of a nod to, who's that? In Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The guy, and
I haven't seen it.
Oh, have you not seen it? Yeah, no. I love that movie. But
people tell me to watch it, but I've just never got around to it.
Yeah, I don't know why his name. I
think I know who you mean.
I can't remember. Yeah, just like his name's gone up. But I just wanted to like write a song about that. Like, so my honey like is the devil, and I'm selling my soul to play a great indie rock song. But it ended up in the video that Aaron, like as the ukulele and pipes player, was the devil. Like that's the idea of it. So it was so much fun to make that,
Oh, I didn't know there was a video. I must check it out, actually.
Yeah, it's cool. Me and my mate just made all the videos for that EP ourselves. Yeah, it's really cool. Like me with a campfire, like selling my soul, putting the lyrics into the fire, and then the ukulele and pipes players. Like, it's really cool.
Do you think there's a healthy music scene in Northern Ireland now, or the whole of Ireland?
Yeah, definitely in the whole of Ireland, it's kind of overwhelmingly good as a whole. But it's been so good for such a long time, on the north as well. It's been interesting to kind of watch over the last 15 years to watch the sort of priority genres change, and watch how that just as a city, like I don't know outside of Belfast. I only know Belfast and Dublin or Mayo or places like that mainly. I haven't really done ton. Like I've traveled loads, but I haven't actually been situated in different places to understand other cities, and towns. But Belfast, like it's just been interesting to watch how people have, as a scene and influenced as a community, grow and influence one another, because indie was always obviously such a massive part of Belfast. Like going back to when I was a teenager, and you had like bands like The Good Fight and A Plastic Rose, and So Watch You From Afar came out. They're not indie, but just like guitar music in general. And then once, like, I just remember, like, there was always like quite a folk and country thing going on in Ireland. And when Mumford & Sons came out, and all Ben Howard and that whole like communion scene or whatever, it was cool to like see how much of an impact that had on Belfast, because it just blew up. Like everybody was doing folk and stuff like that. And then that kind of fizzled out. And then sort of like the 1970s, and then sort of about 2015, the 1975 got really big. And then everybody's kind of like taking bits of that, and like, you know, hip hop music has got even bigger commercially, and it's been interesting to watch like young songwriters and producers, because, you know, people are even more so now able to make stuff in their bedrooms, not the way they used to. Like, you know, you did have to go into a studio to do all this kind of stuff because technology was just rubbish. But whereas now it's just incredible what you can do. But, you know, and just that electronic kind of influence on indie music and what's happened and stuff. So, but yeah, no, I mean, long story short, no, I mean, there's never a short supply of like great stuff going on. Thankfully we're like out of that pandemic and we can kind of go and see each other play again. Cause it was cool how much music sort of came out of that pandemic. Like so many people launched during that, and me and Lucy included. Our solo stuff, like that all came out right in the middle of all the lockdowns, and we couldn't tour. So it's really good to be able to be going out to the gigs and being on the same bills as all these other artists that from here that haven't been able to, you know.
Do you have any live shows planned for this year, for the remainder of the year or early next year?
No, none. Not just that. Michael Head Support was, I think, the last one I'll do. But I'm gigging with my sister a lot next year too, and we're just straight away in January we're supporting Wallows in the Olympia Theatre in Dublin and O2 Academy in Glasgow, so that's going to be really fun. But other than that, I'm just kind of mainly just getting my head down in the studio and finishing up my next music. No, then I'll plan gigs around that and start announcing more shows.
Where's your favourite venue to play in Belfast?
I used to always love playing the Mandela Hall. Some of the best gigs I ever played was in the Mandela Hall. But is that still open? Is it being redone? Or?
It has opened. I haven't been. It's also my favourite venue in Belfast, and I was disappointed when they closed it, but it has reopened. I haven't been there since. It's reopened, but I can't wait to go.
Yeah, I saw I think two of the first proper gigs that I ever saw that I'd seen was in there. But it was Fun Loving Criminals and 07.
Well,
yeah, that was incredible. And then we actually did a headline when we were Southern before we went to London. Everybody was we thought it was really funny to kind of like everybody was doing their headline gigs in Auntie Annie's, and as like a kind of like rebellion against that, just everybody just copying one another. It was kind of, I just thought it was getting really boring. I was like, I contacted this guy called Rod. He used to do a promotion company called Red Roof. And I was like, here, I know this sounds mad, but like, can I do the Mandela Hall with you? And like, I was like, I promise we'll sell it out. We'll do like a semi-seated show. And we actually did. We sold it out. It was, but we, you know, put our hearts and souls into it and handed out flyers for a couple of months and put posters all over Belfast. And it was probably one of the best gigs I've ever played. It was amazing. So yeah, the Mandela Hall is close to me, but I love the Ulster Hall. I've played I supported Duke Special in the Waterfront Hall one time, just me and an acoustic guitar, and that was magic. And there's so many cool venues. I love the Black Box. I love that gig the other night. It was great, you know.
Yeah. 2022 is ending. Looking back, what's been your highlights this year?
Probably like putting out my album was really, really nice in February. And as a producer and a writer, me and Lucy just came back from the Isle of Lewis, just off the coast of Inverness. And we were in this studio called Black Bay for 2 weeks, recording all Lucy's music, just like completely isolated. There wasn't a shop, no bars, nothing, wow. Just in this wee thing with like some water surrounding it. There was just like rams and, you know, like white-tailed eagles and all this cool stuff, and like seals in the sea. And we were just us and the engineer and a thing. And we all lived in this studio for 2 weeks together, losing our minds. And it was, that was probably the highlight of my year for sure. It was incredible. It was such an amazing experience. So I can't wait for people to hear that music as well.
And when will that be coming out?
next year.
Happy days.
Yeah.
So what ambitions do you have going forward in the next year, in the 2023?
I think for, I just want to keep playing gigs, and I just want to keep, making music that I like to make and not really thinking about it too much. I think for the first time in my life, I feel quite peaceful in that way. Like I'm really just enjoying the moment more, and trying not to think too much about the future. Because I think, some like I was a victim of it as well, but you can get wrapped up in that too much, like the dream, this like sort of imaginary dream of, putting like this vision of yourself, like, oh, I'm going to sell out this, and you put these kind of goals. I think just humans in general put that kind of pressure on themselves, and they forget how to just have fun and enjoy the craft that they're making, or especially with art or whatever. But for me personally, it's the first time I'm kind of just not thinking about the future, and I have to plan in some sort of way, like this song's going to come out then, and I'm going to, but it's still an artistic decision. It's not like I want this to be a big hit or whatever. I'm just kind of just enjoying what I'm doing, and yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah. And if good things happen, that will happen,
Yeah, just seeing how it goes, and having fun, and looking forward to next year. Actually, there's loads of cool stuff happening, so yeah, it's going to be good.
I like to ask my guests the following questions. For us music fans, music is the soundtrack of our memories. What song or album, when you listen to it, brings back the best memories for you?
Probably a really happy time. I mean, there's so many, but Beck's Sea Change album, I was just obsessed with that. And like the main, one of the main songs, Lost Cause. It takes me back to like a road trips to Donegal with my mate and his family, and I just used to go there a lot with them. And just anytime I listen to Lost Cause, it just brings me straight back to that time. I don't know what it is, but it just has a feeling that's just so personal to me. It's the same for everyone, but you just can't describe it. But it just makes you feel like who you were then. I don't know, and just that moment. Probably that, if I had to pick one today, off the top of my head.
Which song or album is your guilty pleasure?
It's funny. There's actually, last year when I was in Liverpool, we lived above a co-op, and they used to just play all the kind of commercial bangers, like just the very contemporary ones. So you're just always aware of what was on the radio at the time on the co-op playlist or something. But there's one of Justin Bieber's songs. I don't know what it's called. It might be called like You or something. I don't know. But I think it's the chorus is like, the one that goes, it's like You or something. I don't know. But
I don't know any Justin Bieber songs.
Yeah, I just think it's a really, really amazing chorus. I think it's a really well written song. And I think the chorus is just I just love the transition of some of the melodies, and I also just think his voice, like I love like a male voice going falsetto. So that maybe that would be when it comes on the Spar radio playlist when I go to the shops or something. I'm like, that's a really good tune. Like Lucy always laughs because I sit and sing along to it. But I'll just say that for now.
Well, that's your next cover, obviously.
Yeah, it'd be a difficult one to sing, but I might leave Justin. He can just do that. I'll do me. He can do him.
And what's been your favorite album that's been released this year? Apart from your own.
Oh damn! I was going to say that. No, not really. It's definitely not my favorite. I can't believe it took me this long to even say it. Alex G's new album is God Save the Animals. It's absolutely unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Every song, just the production and everything. he did it with the guy, I can't remember his name. He's on Unknown Mortal Orchestra, but I think he does a lot of his stuff. But I just think Alex G is just one of the best artists that's come out in ages. I think he's like just doing something so different, but taking influences of what's going on at the moment and doing it in his own way. But yeah, that album's just amazing. It might be the best one he's done yet. I love all his lo-fi, like early stuff, but it's the first time you've kind of heard him more 3D and like mixed a bit. They've spent a bit more money on it, and he's obviously been in nicer studios, but just so much heart to that album, and the lyrics and everything, and the way he does his guitars and the piano and everything is just incredible.
I'm going to have to check him out.
Yeah, he's the cool kid. He's definitely one of the cool kids of the world. He's unbelievable, man. Like, he's a huge influence on me at the moment, especially with the stuff I'm going to put out next year. But yeah, his stuff was the guitar, like the way he puts octave pedals and just the way he like sort of pitch shifts instrumentation and vocals was there's a bit of that kind of influence on PLAZA. But yeah, like even with Lucy's stuff, like we're both just obsessed with him at the moment. So it's definitely seeping into what we're doing now and moving forward. So he's great. Everybody should go check him out.
So Tom, is there anything you would like to mention before we wrap up? Anything else coming up for the rest of the year or next year?
No, just have a good one, everyone. Yeah, well, just have a good Christmas. Hope everyone's doing well. And maybe I'll see anybody who's listening at a gig next year. It'd be cool to meet you, and I'm looking forward to putting out these new songs I've been working on as well and getting on the road with them.
Cool. That's it, Tom. Thanks very much. Really, really enjoyed it.
All right, no worries. Thanks, man.